Our class today is on communicating after an earthquake. This is going to be a pretty quick class and not a lot of homework for tonight, so that's nice. But we are going to talk about how to communicate after an earthquake, how to get hold of those folks in your household that you are concerned about that maybe you're not with during the earthquake. So here we go. The shaking has stopped. What do you do? We've been through a bunch of this, but we'll keep going over it so you hear it a bunch of times and it sinks in. You will check on people and pets around you first. After the shaking stops, start moving carefully, check on people and pets around you. The next thing you do is control your utilities. Gas, you're going to shut it off if you smell the gas or you hear a gas leak. Electricity, leave it on unless you see damaged wires or you smell insulation burning, which will be kind of a plastic smell. So don't mess with the electricity unless you think there's a concern. And then water, always shut it off. If you can shut it off inside the building, great. If not, then shut it off out to the street. But you don't want any of that contaminated water coming into your building, whatever building you're in, whether that's work, church, gym, home, whatever. So that's how you control your utilities. And then you reach out. This is what we will all just kind of naturally do. You reach out to family and friends, household members, just trying to figure out how everyone's doing and get more information so that you know what to do next. We're talking tonight about contacting family, friends, household members, and how to find out how everyone's doing after a large disaster. So do not call 911. It is apparently ridiculously common for people to call 911 after an earthquake to find out if that was an earthquake. And that's a real problem. The Office of Emergency Management, the 911 operators want us to emphasize, don't call 911 unless you truly, truly, truly have a life-threatening emergency. Your landline might work, and it's honestly a very small chance that it will work. A landline, for it to work, even if the electricity is down and there's no cell phone signals and all that kind of stuff, the only way it will work is if there is a copper wire from your house all the way to the phone company. 95% of the time, that is not the case. Somewhere in there, that copper line will be broken and that signal will be sent digitally. So it's very, very unusual to have a true landline, but you might. So a landline might work after a disaster. Less than 10% of landlines here in Seattle are actually landlines. And again, don't make a call unless absolutely necessary. You are much better off, if you can, texting. Texting is a very small packet of information, and it can kind of go around in cyberspace until it gets delivered. It might get delivered even after you've sent the text. So it could make it through 45 minutes from now or an hour from now. Once you hang up the phone, if you're trying to call with a regular telephone, once you hang up that phone, your ability to communicate is lost. So sending a text is always better. It's a smaller packet of information. It has a better chance of getting through, and it might get delivered even after you've stopped trying. So texting is always your best bet. When you do send a text, you want to include the date and the time in every text. And that's in case it's delivered later than when you sent it. You want the person that receive it to know that it is not a current situation. And make your message count. You want to give them good information. Tell them how you're doing. Tell them where you are and what your plan is. So here's an example on the screen. Hopefully you can see it. This is a very, very bad text. Oh my God, what was that? Are you okay? Where are you? What do we do now? Very bad text. The only thing you're telling that person is that your thumbs work. So let's show you a better text. This one is, I'm home and I'm fine. The pup is fine. Checking on neighbors, but staying put. It's 4:25 p.m. on a Tuesday. That actually gives your household members something to work with. Put in there your condition, your location, and your plan, and date and time every text. The other thing we're going to talk about is the out-of-town contact. This is a person that relays messages, text messages between family members. Sometimes it's easier to get a text message out of the city than it is across the city. So this out-of-town contact needs to live in Spokane, Washington, or further east. You don't want them north of us or south of us. You don't want them on the West Coast because they might be involved in the same earthquake. So if you can find a trusted family, friend, whatever, that lives in Spokane, Washington, or further east, ask them if they will do this. And their only job is to, so when you text, say this family member is me, I will text my mother-in-law in Las Vegas, who is my out-of-town contact, and I will text the other 2 members of my family.
That's weird.
So I'm texting 3 people.
Did you get it? I find
I'm texting 3 people. If my mother-in-law in Vegas sees that my family members here in Seattle are not getting my texts, she can take that text and forward it to them. Because again, sometimes it's easier to get a text out of the city than it is across the city. So I would get the text out to her, and then she would send it back here to Seattle and include my family members. So that's how your out-of-town contact person can work for you. They're just a relay. And then also give them a to-do list. They can contact other people. I have my mother-in-law in Las Vegas contacting my mom because she is not somebody I would text. She doesn't have a smartphone. So contact people that would really be worried about you and give them that heads up, face-to-face on a phone call kind of thing. So they can contact other people for you. They can also put a post on social media and let all of your friends and family that have a Facebook account, let them find out that they have heard from you and that you're okay. So they can post on social media. And then anything else you can think of that they could do, I would certainly ask them. I think they will be thrilled to do whatever it is you ask them to do. So find that out-of-town contact person, work with them, explain to them what you need them to do, and then give them a list of things to do if, heaven forbid, they ever hear from you. Safe and Well, this is a website that the Red Cross used to have when disasters happened, and they used to stand up this website for people that were involved in disasters, and they could check in themselves as safe and well, and then people outside of the disaster area could go to the Safe and Well website and find out that their loved ones had checked in and they were okay. The Red Cross is not currently operating this system. I'm not sure when or if it's coming back. The other thing on your homework list for tonight, for this week, is to write down phone numbers that are in your phone, because you never know that your phone is going to make it through a disaster. Maybe it breaks and you can't get any phone numbers out of it. Maybe it runs out of power. You definitely want those phone numbers written down, pen and paper, really low tech, so that if you're able to borrow somebody's phone, you have the phone numbers you need to actually send that text. So write down those important numbers. And everybody's list is different. You might have a pet sitter, you might have the nursing home where your elderly father is living, your kid's school, your boss, whatever. Everybody's list is going to look different. Definitely put your out-of-town contact on there, because you don't know if like I said, you don't know that you'll be able to get to the phone numbers that are stuck in your phone. I would write down Cairo 710 AM and 97.3, just the radio stations that you can listen to for more information, because you may not remember that. So write those phone numbers down. What we've done here in my house is we wrote them on a 3x5 card, put them in plastic bags, and we have copies all over the place. They're in cars, they're in backpacks, they're in desk drawers, all over the place. So just make a bunch of them, tuck them wherever you think you might need them. So another way to communicate after a large disaster is with radio, because radios work even when cell phone towers are down. And they'll work when the phone lines are down or just overwhelmed, which is absolutely possible after a big disaster. So that is a pro of radios. They do run off of batteries, so they're not dependent on the power grid, but that also means that, they're going to run out of power. And they can be mobile. You can take radios with you. You can walk with many radios. Cons, depending on the type of radio you choose to use, you're probably going to have to buy a license, and then there's the cost of the radio itself. And then they're a little bit cumbersome if you're not super comfortable with radios. But I'm going to stop sharing for just a second and talk to you about my family. So we are, all of us have, we have a GMRS license for our family. It only takes one license for the entire family. The license is now $35. And the way we use it in our family is I have a GMRS radio here sitting on my desk, always plugged in, always ready to go. My husband has a GMRS radio in his office at work. I'm in Northeast Seattle. He works in Beacon Hill. So I couldn't even tell you how many miles apart we are, but if there is a disaster at work, he will pick up his GMRS radio and he and I will talk using something called a repeater, and it allows us to talk to one another. So we can talk about, what's your condition? How did the hospital fare? Because he works in a hospital. We can discuss our plan. And then when he's ready to leave the hospital, once he's done what he needs to do for the patients, he can take that radio and he will use it on his walk back north to me, back up to Northeast Seattle. So GMRS radio for us is really, really convenient. We're a little nerdy and we like the disaster preparedness stuff. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it is an option. And it's an option that will work even if the cell phone towers are down. So if you want to learn more about GMRS radio, just send me an email and I'd be happy to talk to you a little bit more about it. GMRS radio, ham radio, whatever, they all have their pros and their cons. If you're really concerned about being able to communicate with family members post-disaster, then radio is something worth considering. I've put these on previous assignments, so hopefully everybody here on the call has signed up for Alert Seattle and Alert King County. They don't necessarily overlap, so you definitely want both. And you can always get information using those. They require that cell phone towers are working because they send out either a phone call or an email or a text, but they're not going to work if all the cell phone towers are down. But this is a way that you could get really good information from the government, from the officials about what's going on. And this will be big things like this bridge is down and all the buses have stopped, and boil your water until you hear from us. It'll be big information. Always remember the local emergency radio stations. Cairo, which is 710 AM or 97.3 FM, that station has been given a mandate to stay up and running after an emergency. They have accepted the challenge from FEMA and they have been outfitted with the proper equipment. And I'm guessing that's like batteries and reinforced radio transmission towers and that kind of stuff. But their job is to stay on air and keep talking to us even after an earthquake. So definitely write those numbers down. If you have an emergency radio like this is one of those ones it cranks and you can listen to the radio all night, and there's a flashlight, and I think there's probably a solar charger on the top of that. Fancy emergency radio, that's great. But I would definitely write on here 710 AM and 97.3 FM, just so you remember where to go and listen for those emergency radio stations. Don't forget local television. Some of them may still be on. And the emergency communication hubs is a great place to get information after disaster. We will talk about the hubs and that whole system on class number 6. So in 2 weeks, the early earthquake warning system. Love this system. Very excited we have it. So the early earthquake warning system works because when an earthquake happens, there are two energy waves that are sent out. The first one is what's called the P wave. Doesn't matter what it's called, but it is first and fast. It travels very, very fast. Animals are more sensitive to these P waves. But these P waves come out seconds before the other wave, the S wave, not days or weeks. So animals are not, if they're sensing earthquakes, it may be that there's really, really gentle earthquakes that humans can't feel, and maybe they're sensing those, but they are not predictors of earthquakes. So anyway, be careful of people that say my dog told me there was an earthquake coming. There may be something to that, but they are not good predictors. They just feel them. They're more sensitive than we are. So P waves come out first. They're very, very fast, and they're first. And we can detect those P waves before the S waves come, which cause more of the shaking. So because there is such a thing as a P wave, we have an early earthquake warning system. So it takes 4 sensors to detect a quake. And again, the sensors are picking up these P waves. It takes about 3 seconds to detect that quake and generate an alert. And then that alert, wherever it happened, wherever out in the mountains or wherever, where they picked up that sensation, that early quake, there's a delay in time in getting that information to things like our phones, or the gas company, or the water company, or the elevators, or whatever. So the lag comes after that, after they've already sensed that there is an earthquake on its way.
What would you do if you have seconds to prepare for shaking from an earthquake that has already begun? More than 143 million people in the United States are exposed to potentially damaging shaking due to earthquakes. Most of our nation's earthquake risk is concentrated in highly populated areas on the active plate tectonic boundaries of the west coast of the continental United States. The U.S. Geological Survey operates the Shake Alert Earthquake Early Warning System, which is part of the Advanced National Seismic System. Shake Alert is not earthquake prediction, but a Shake Alert message issued by the USGS indicates that an earthquake has begun and shaking is imminent.
Don't let yourself be convinced to get something that you know is bad, and then it is, finally share something.
With even a few seconds of warning, Shake Alert can save lives and reduce injuries by alerting people to take a protective action such as drop, cover, and hold on. Shake Alert further protects people and infrastructure by triggering automatic actions such as slowing down trains to prevent derailments, opening firehouse doors so they don't jam shut, and closing valves to protect water systems and to stabilize equipment during life-critical situations. How does Shake Alert work? When an earthquake occurs, seismic waves carry energy in all directions away from the epicenter. P waves, similar to sound waves, move quickly through the ground, followed by the slower and generally more damaging S waves and surface waves. Sensors detect the seismic waves and send that information to a Shake Alert processing center, which requires that at least 4 sensors detect the earthquake. If the earthquake fits the right profile, the USGS issues a Shake Alert message. Distribution partners then produce and deliver an alert to people and trigger automated systems. Alert delivery can be before, during, or after shaking from S waves and surface waves. Alerts can be delivered to people through apps designed for cell phones and other wireless devices, over public address systems, TVs and radios, and by FEMA's Wireless Emergency Alert System, WEA, which is also the source of Amber Alerts. For every earthquake, there is a region near the epicenter where alerts will not arrive before shaking begins. That's because close to the epicenter, the P and S waves are too close together, and the Shake Alert system needs time, often just seconds, to estimate the earthquake's magnitude and shaking levels before issuing a Shake Alert message. That means that people close to the earthquake epicenter might not get an alert until after the shaking has already started. Those farther away from the epicenter could receive more warning time before shaking arrives. If an earthquake continues to grow in size, additional Shake Alert messages might be issued, updating the estimated magnitude and expected shaking for that event, which will result in alerts being delivered to a broader area. The USGS recommends that when you receive an alert, you should take protective action immediately. Do not wait for shaking to arrive. If you are near the coast in a tsunami-prone region, it's important to get to high ground quickly, but only after shaking stops. Before traveling to a new place, learn about both the local hazards and the recommended precautions to take by reading information found in the city, county, or state's emergency management websites. Knowledge of your surroundings and practicing protective actions are critical components of preparedness for any disaster. Always remember, if you receive an earthquake alert or experience shaking, drop, cover, and hold on until all shaking stops.
I'd like to urge you to be understanding with this system. It works well, but if, like the video said, if you're really close to the epicenter, you might get that alert after you have felt the shaking. You might experience warning but no shaking, warning but little shaking, or you might get shaking with the warning coming later. Any one of those is correct. It just happens to be that you just were at a bad place at the wrong time. How the alert gets to us: wireless emergency alert, the WIA system, which is the same thing. It's the same kind of technology as the Amber Alerts. And it sounds just like an Amber Alert with that very screechy tone. It gets to us through that, and that's the Shake Alert. Compatible mobile phones can receive geographically targeted text-like messages, and it'll pop up on your phone just like in the picture there. Very similar to Amber Alerts, and they all sound the same, whether it's an Amber Alert or a Shake Alert and an earthquake. So I have included the instructions to enable the wireless emergency alert system on your phone. On Android phones, my understanding it's turned on already and you don't have to do anything. But if you have any other kind of phone like an iPhone, you do have to take a couple extra steps to make sure that it's turned on. My understanding is that if you are currently getting Amber Alerts, your WIA system is turned on, and so you will get Shake Alerts. The MyShake app it's recommended that you download that. It doesn't cost anything. It is a little bit different than the Shake Alert system. It uses the same technology sort of, but it's delivered a little bit differently. So it might work better, it might work worse. It might give you more heads up, it might give you less heads up than the Shake Alert. But download the MyShake app, and that's in your homework for this week. The MyShake app is the only app capable of delivering earthquake early warnings in Washington state at this time. There's more than likely more coming, but MyShake is the one that's here now. And you do want both of those, MyShake and Shake Alert. It takes a while to build this system, and we got a late start, frankly. California's had this for about 10 years. Oregon went live about a month before we did. So Oregon and Washington a little bit slower to get this going. And sometime late 2025, they should have all the sensors in place, which just means the system will be as robust as it can be. And then from that point forward, it's just maintenance. But we're still putting those sensors in place so that we have enough sensors that we can use those 4 sensors to detect the earthquake, determine if it's big enough that people need to know about it, and then send that alert out. Just remember, when you hear that alert, you want to drop, cover, and hold. Don't go, oh, I think there might be an earthquake coming. Assume there will be an earthquake coming. You want to get down on all 4s by your own volition, and don't let the earthquake throw you down. So definitely drop to the ground, get under something, and hold on. Do have one last video to show you. I think this is really interesting because I believe it's very typical of what people will do in an earthquake. What they do is they kind of mill about, wondering what's going on, and then they head for the door. And that's such a bad thing to do. You can see in this video that there's more than one person heading for the door at a time. And the guy that's left in the office just kind of wanders around. And he could have, if it would have been a stronger earthquake, he definitely could have gotten hurt. Any of these people that are moving around could have gotten hurt. So just watch what these folks do, and then do what they're not smart enough to do. Drop, cover, and hold on. So here we go. Oh, and this video has no sound. you can tell people just, they don't know what they should be doing. They kind of wonder what to do and they start heading for the door. They really should have all just dropped down, gotten underneath their desk and waited there. But that's what we humans do. If we don't know better, we turn into lizards and we do what makes sense. That's the end. Like I told you, this was going to be kind of a quick class. Next week, we're going to talk about making a plan and what does that mean, and then also making a get home bag to make that walk home from wherever you are a little bit better. So see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m.